Today, we're going to dive into the story of a king who, well, he had it all. Wisdom, unimaginable wealth, incredible power. But his life leaves us with a really big question.
I mean, have you ever wondered about that? Can success, can prosperity actually become a kind of trap? Well, the story of King Solomon is one of the most powerful case studies you'll ever find for that very idea.
All right, so let's set the scene. Our story starts at a moment of just incredible promise. When Solomon first becomes king, he's known for his amazing wisdom and, maybe even more importantly, his humility. This was supposed to be a golden age.
And look, he wasn't just smart. People saw him as being specially favored by God. In fact, his original name, Jedediah, literally means beloved of the Lord. So he was off to a fantastic start, totally dedicated to ruling with fairness.
And this right here, this shows you just how good things were. This beautiful phrase, every man under his vine and under his fig tree, it's this perfect picture of peace and prosperity. The kingdom was safe, it was thriving. But as we're about to see, even in the best of times, one single choice can change everything.
This is where the first crack starts to show. Solomon makes what he thinks is a smart move, a strategic alliance. And from a worldly point of view, it made a lot of sense. But it went directly against a core rule he was supposed to live by.
So here's the conflict, laid out plain and simple. On one hand, you've got God's instruction, which was crystal clear. Stay separate, protect your culture and your faith. But Solomon, he had his own idea. He figured, hey, an alliance with a powerhouse like Egypt, that's going to make my kingdom stronger, more stable. He basically decided his own strategy was better than God's command.
And to make this alliance official, what does he do? He marries an idolatrous princess. His reasoning was that he was so wise, so influential, that he could change her. He was absolutely sure he could handle it. It was a huge miscalculation, and it was rooted in trusting his own strength instead of just following the rules.
And that first little compromise, well, it was like a gateway. It opened the door for more. Pretty soon, Solomon starts ignoring very specific warnings God had set up for the kings of Israel. Warnings designed to prevent the exact kind of disaster he was now heading straight for.
See, hundreds of years earlier, God had laid out these three very clear don'ts for any future king. Think of them as guardrails. Don't build up a huge army that makes you dependent on other countries. Don't hoard tons of personal wealth. And don't marry a bunch of foreign women. Each rule was there for a reason, to protect against pride, greed, and idolatry. So, how did Solomon do?
Well, rule number 1, yeah, he shattered it. He collected 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen. And where did he get a lot of them? From Egypt, the very nation he wasn't supposed to rely on. He was putting his trust in his military, not in God.
And rule number 2, about not hoarding wealth, oh boy, did he break that one. He brought in so much money that it was said silver and gold in Jerusalem were as common as rocks on the ground. But this wealth didn't go to help his people. It went into his own lavish, self-glorifying building projects.
And then there's the third rule. He didn't just stop with Pharaoh's daughter. No, we're talking about hundreds of wives from all the surrounding pagan nations. Every marriage was a political move, but it was also a spiritual disaster waiting to happen.
But here's the thing. These weren't just a bunch of broken rules on a checklist. All of these choices were actually changing him from the inside out. The wisest man in the world was starting to forget where his wisdom came from in the first place.
You can actually see his downfall happen in stages. It wasn't an overnight thing at all. He starts out humble. Then he starts trusting his own smarts a little too much. That leads to pride, which turns him into a tyrant. And finally, it ends in him completely abandoning his faith.
Remember how he thought he was strong enough to resist their influence? Well, that's exactly what got him. To please his many, many wives, he started joining them in their religious rituals. He just slowly drifted away from his duty to God, making room for the very things he was supposed to stand against.
And his whole character just completely flipped. The wise, kind king we met at the beginning, he became a tyrant. That immense wealth he piled up came at a cost. He was taxing his own people into the ground to pay for it all. Mercy was replaced with pride and cruelty.
And this is the absolute horrifying bottom. The same man who once wisely saved a child's life from being cut in two fell so far that he built shrines to idols like Moloch, where living children were sacrificed in fire. He was actively supporting the most evil, degrading practices imaginable.
So what on earth are we supposed to take away from this incredibly tragic story? Well, Solomon's life is a massive warning sign, and it's not just for kings. It's for anyone who ever experiences success.
There's this fantastic analogy that really hits the nail on the head. An empty cup, hardship, can be tough to carry, but it often keeps us humble, right? It's the full cup, prosperity, that's the real test. You've got to carry that one so carefully or you'll spill everything.
And that's why success tricks you. It makes you feel self-sufficient, like you don't need help from anyone, not even God. You start to trust your own brilliant plans, your own strength. And before you know it, you've completely forgotten where your blessings came from in the first place. Solomon is Exhibit A.
And that's the bottom line. If the wisest man who ever lived could fall this hard, then literally no one is immune. His story isn't just ancient history. It's a timeless warning that staying humble and remembering you're not the source of your own success is the only way to stay standing.
Which brings it all back to us. It's easy to handle an empty cup, but that full one is tricky. So the question for all of us to think about is this: when life starts to fill your cup to the brim, how do you make sure you don't lose your balance?